Hackers are more organized and more dangerous than ever. I know you may not have thought much about this issue, but I want to warn you that attackers may be closer to your game than you think. With this new video series I've just started, I'll show you the methods attackers use and how can you thwart them. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like button. By subscribing, you can automatically receive notifications when new episodes or new game making videos are uploaded to the channel. This will be a long series, so let's get started right away. Attackers constantly scanning all upmarkets, and any games making more than a certain amount of revenue immediately come onto their radar. Game developers often overlook game security because they are generally focused on technical challenges, visual enhancements, or marketing efforts. Attackers, on the other hand, relentlessly try the methods they know work on vulnerable points in all games, causing a lot of trouble for companies that are unprepared. Unfortunately, by the time you realize that part of your game is not secure enough, it may be too late. For many years, I worked as a lead programmer in major studios, being the most responsible person for many successes and some disasters. As a result, I've experienced many situations and learned many lessons. I combined these lessons into a structure based on ISO 27001, a globally recognized information security certification, and called it the end-to-end 360-degree game security system. My aim was to establish a structure that would prevent many security issues in games before they occur, along with precautions to over 300 different types of security issues in this document. Throughout this video series, I will explain each test in this document and the methods to deal with all possible security situations in your game. You can watch these videos for free, where I share all the experiences I've gained over the years, the problems I've encountered, and the solutions I've developed. Additionally, if you want consultancy from me to implement this system in your company or to assess the risk level of your games, click the link in the description to get into touch. So how does this system work? First, a risk score is calculated. To calculate this, you need to fill out a document with about 300 questions. Yes, you may think this is a lot, but in a world where individuals are not far from trying to transfer your income to their own pockets by exploiting a vulnerability in your game, nothing is too much. To better explain how the system works, I've prepared a sample report. I want to show you a summary of the report, which usually contains over 300 questions. Let's take the example of a game called Acme Worlds and say we have calculated its risk score. Let's say the risk score is 5 out of 10. So how did we calculate this score? You can see 6 main sections on this page. There is also the blockchain section that I recently added, but I haven't included it in this document yet. As you can see, these sections are organizational structure, game engine security, logical security, security on player devices, backend security, and multiplayer security. Each section contains between 40 and 60 questions, and each question checks for the existence of a potential security vulnerability. These questions are based on my experiences working on games over the years. You should also create a checklist of questions based on your experiences. I will make videos for all of the items on my list. Some videos may cover 2-3 items, while others may take 2-3 videos to cover in one item. Let's look closely at these fundamental areas. Organizational structure. This section includes questions about how you handle game security in your studio. Let's take a look at some sample questions in this regard. Question 1. Do you have an information security officer? Most studios do not have a person or unit responsible for this issue. Most game studios wait for an incident to occur before taking precautions, and unfortunately, these experiences are always learned the hard way. However, ideally, there should always be an information security officer who conducts continuous search on security threats. If you are a one-person army or running a small studio, you can also take on this role by dedicating a certain amount of time each week. We will delve into the details of this topic in the future videos. Question 2. Do you have an information security checklist? There should be procedures and controls that must be implemented rigorously and with strict discipline at certain stages of the game. Over time, I've prepared a list that I consider ideal. I'll share it in a video on this topic. There are about 50 questions in this section, which may seem like boring office work at a first glance, but unfortunately, this is the most critical part of the job. It's essential to identify and eliminate threats before they cause problems. Otherwise, calling a roofer after it starts raining won't help. Game engine security. This section addresses issues related to the game engine you use independently of your game's source code. When working with Unity, Unreal, or other third-party game engines, they may have their own issues or security vulnerabilities. For example, Unity has 12 known vulnerabilities: injection, wall hack, speed hack, etc. And our list includes over 40 questions about the known issues of major game engines. Each of these questions is related to a specific vulnerability type, and I'll provide detailed information about these vulnerability types when the relevant videos are uploaded. Injection. For example, injection is used to bring an external assembly into your game and execute foreign code in your game. By doing this, they can execute commands in your game whenever they want. For example, even if you wanted to open a door after pressing a button, they could execute the command that opens the door by injecting their own code into your game. This is a small example, but your imagination is probably already beginning to draw where this could lead, isn't it? Another example is time hack. They can manipulate time to move it backward or forward, making it faster or slower. Thus, they can bypass cooldowns or mandatory wait times. This issue arises not from your code, but from the known structures of the game engines used in all games. However, it's your responsibility to take precautions against such issues. This section also includes about 50 questions examining such issues. The next section contains questions about logical errors. Here we are trying to identify errors or inconsistencies in your game's source code or data processing algorithms that could lead to problems or be exploited by the attackers. This section is the most prone to problems because there is no specific pattern to the errors that may occur here. Instead of trying to identify all possible errors under this title, we examine whether certain situations that could lead to these errors exist in your game. For example, let's look at the situation between the interface and the logic layer. Usually, restrictions on what a function can do in your game are limited by the visibility or clickability of the button in the interface. However, in the logic layer, the function can still be performed. Let's say you are making a poker game, and when a player makes a call, his in-game money decreases. How do you prevent a player from calling while it's another player's turn? By disabling the call button in front of them. But what if a malicious individual sent a call message to your game server for a player who is not actually in turn? Or they can reopen the disabled button using programs like Cheat Engine. The real solution is to check whether appropriate condition exists for the desired activity in the logic layer. This section details and analyzes many such situations. The next section examines the security on players' devices. The data of your game is vulnerable in an environment where you have no control, figuratively speaking. Therefore, there are some measures that need to be taken to ensure the security and integrity of the data on players' devices. This section introduces these measures and examines whether your game has them. One of those measures can be put against the memory scanners. Your game may have some sensitive data, such as a player's score, gold, user ID, etc. These can be altered by programs called memory scanners, which locate the memory location of a numerical value and change it, making the modified value persistent by saving it to the game's save files or sending it to the server. There is a simple solution to this issue, but the problem can escalate into a serious issue depending on whether you know about this simple problem and whether you apply that simple solution. Data stored on the device. You may be storing sensitive data on the device, such as player's score, email address, password. By the way, you should never ever store the password on the device, records of purchases, and so on. Unauthorized access to or modification of these data can result in a disaster for you. For example, if you store things like the lives you sell in the game, turning off ads or premium features on the device, and the format of this file can be deciphered by unauthorized individuals, then they can easily make all the investments you've made worthless by simply editing a file. Even worse, they can divert the money they prevented from your earning into their pockets by selling this things that you sold for 100 coins to others for 1 mere coin. I am showing you effective methods that have been seen to work and have proven themselves in battlefields to prevent such situations. In this section, you will find dozens of potential issues related to device security and measurements and information about their proven solutions. Backend security. If your game connects to a remote server to read data, send data, or even send and receive sensitive data such as passwords, email addresses, phone numbers, then this section may attract the interest of malicious individuals. It is your responsibility to protect all sensitive data entrusted you by players and to protect it from unauthorized access. Some issues in this section may not only be a problem for end users but also for you, as players can sue you for not fulfilling your duty to protect the exposed sensitive data even if those data have not been used for any malicious purpose. In the worst case scenario, they can leave negative comments on the markets where you have published the game, scaring away potential future customers. Some of the questions in these sections assess awareness and measures taken within the studio against situations that cannot be addressed by software solutions as seen in the first question. For example, an attack type known as DDoS or some similar attack types can only be solved with hardware layers or services obtained from third-party service providers. As an example of what can be prevented with software measures related to backend security, you can see the precautions that can be taken when transferring sensitive data in this section. This section contains detailed information on dozens of potential attacks and their solutions. The most problematic and potential threats for attackers are in the multiplayer section. Your users may face serious threats in this regard. Some of these include the theft of players' accounts, attempt to resell these accounts, prevention of access to these accounts, or the unfair acquisition of in-game rewards. Such injustices can result in both revenue loss for you and disillusionment for real players, causing them to turn away from your game. One of the first and most symbolic issues to be examined in this section is the ownership. If users keep the ownership of objects such as bullets, health packs, weapons, enemies, etc. revealed on their clients, this is always a problematic method. Breaking such structures with programs like Cheat Engine or manipulating them in a malicious way is very easy. Therefore, ownership must always be operated on the server side where there is no administrative access from the outside world. This section evaluates and measures many potential problems like this. The recommended action plan. After answering all those questions, a personalized action plan is drawn up for you. This plan lists all the steps you need to take carefully and meticulously. In the plan, all necessary steps are listed without skipping any details, but that's not all. These items are also prioritized according to their importance, and an emergency action plan listing the top 10 most urgent items is also drawn up. This plan, which contains the most critical items, should be implemented first. Based on the ISO 27001 Information Security Certification, the end-to-end 360-degree game security system works on this main foundation. In the upcoming videos, you will find all the questions in this system and the most suitable answers for your game to be as secure as possible. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it. And do not forget to subscribe to be notified when the next videos are uploaded. See you in the next video.